Hi woodshop friends, Cindy here, and welcome to My Little Woodshop. Before we start, I just want to remind you that any of the unfinished wood pieces that you see in my videos can all be found in either my Etsy, eBay, or Amazon shop under the shop name of My Little Woodshop 2, and note the 2 on the end. Today I'm going to be talking about products that I use on my unfinished wood, 14 to be exact. I wanted to keep it at 10, but I just couldn't as I was walking through the entire process. Just to show you, this is a 3-inch circle, and actually I think it's 2.5-inch circle of the unfinished wood that I sell in my shop. It's cut with a laser cutter, and it has this darkened edge on it, and it's cut from Baltic birch plywood. We can cut 1/8 or 1/4 inch thick. Notice there's some of the, even on the piece, there's some burnt edges in that. So the first product that I use, product number 1, is gesso. And it's the acrylic gesso. And the reason that I use it, it's made by Liquitex. And the reason that I like the acrylic gesso is it's white in color, and it will cover up those dark pieces. You can see the white. It's kind of hard to see down in the bottle, but it is white. And like I said, it covers up those darkened, burnt wood pieces that are on the wood. Very nice. And so what I do is I put the acrylic gesso on, and I let it dry, and it takes a good 4 to 6 hours for acrylic gesso to dry. So it takes a lot longer than your normal acrylic paints would take to dry. And I use this Corel brush, which is actually product number 2 that I'm going to talk about. Some of my brushes have seen their better days, but it works very good for putting the acrylic on, the gesso on. Just brush it on. I put one coat on, and once it dries, after the 4 to 6 hours, again, I give it that long to dry. But once it dries, the grain of the wood will raise, and you have to sand it. And then at that point, it has a really, really, really nice finish on it. The edges on the wood, they're not chipped. They're always very smooth. This is the sanding block that I use, and this is actually product number 3. I have a ton of different sanding blocks, but this one I absolutely love because it has that little nut bolt, I think it's called, and you just take a piece of sanding paper. I think I cut it to size. It's probably like 5 by 4 is what it looks like. This particular sandpaper is very fine. It's probably like 220. You fold it to fit the bottom piece of the block, and then you put the top piece on, and it's very easy to interchange the different grits of sandpaper that you use. So then just screw the bolt on, fly bolt or fly nut I think it's called, and then once the acrylic gesso dries, lightly sand it, and it gives you such a nice smooth finish on your wood. I bought this at Lowe's, and I bought one and I liked it so much that I wanted to get another one. So I went back to Lowe's to buy it, and I could not find it. So a few weeks or months later, I was walking through the painting section where the scrapers are, and that's where I found it. So it's not with the sanding blocks or the sanding paper, it's with the scrapers. So there you have it. Product number 1 is the gesso, product number 2 the Corel brush, and product number 3 is the sanding block. So product number 4 that I use, and this is a piece of bathroom tile. I don't even know if it's ceramic, but it's got a nice, I guess it is considered ceramic. It's got a nice smooth finish on it. I think this particular piece is about 5 by 7 maybe. And you can see some of my paint that's dried on there. So what I use this for is I pour my gesso or my paint or whatever that I happen to be putting on my wood product. I pour it onto this tile piece and use it, and eventually it will dry on there, and all you have to do is take the scraper that I got and scrape it off. This is a little bit hard to get this off, but typically the paint, the dried on paint comes off very, very easy. So you can see I'm not going to spend too much time on that. The be careful with the scraper too, because it doesn't retract. So and that way that saves me from using paper or paper plates, and it's really very, very easy to work with. So product number 5 is Elmer's glue. So that probably seems like a very basic and a very odd product, but I use this to adhere scrapbook paper to my wood pieces. And the reason that I like Elmer's glue, I always say it's very unforgiving, or it's very forgiving, I should say. What I do is I put a little bit of glue out on my tile, and then I put a fairly thin coating of Elmer's glue all over my piece. You don't want to get too much on there, or you'll get that buckling or bubbling, but you want to have enough on there to hold it on. And here I have an example of a smaller piece of unfinished wood. This is a 2-inch piece, and I have I think I used a hole punch, and I get this 2-inch piece of cardstock, and after I put the Elmer's glue on, I just line up the cardstock, and again, you can move it around very easily. You have probably a good 5 or 10 minutes to be moving that scrapbook paper around to get it in the right place, and it holds it on there. And again, I really do like the Elmer's glue, and it's a very inexpensive way to adhere the paper to the wood. So the next product number 6 that I'm using is the Quick Stick. And I think I got this at Archivers, but I believe I've seen it at Joann's as well. And this is nice. It has like almost like a putty or a clay that comes out of the top, and it will grab onto or adhere onto pieces of scrapbook paper. And it helps me out a lot if I have glue on my fingers and I don't want to be touching the scrapbook paper, and I can just drop it right down on the piece of wood and line it up just as I need to. I think the other end people use that for like positioning those little gemstones in that. But yeah, that's a Quick Stick, and again, one of my favorite tools that I like to use. And just put the lid back on. And then the next product that I like to use, and this helps hold the scrapbook paper to the unfinished wood while it dries, is an acrylic stamping block. And I've even used some of the wooden blocks as well, because the weight amongst the piece is very evenly distributed. And the nice thing about it is the Elmer's glue won't stick to the acrylic block, or if it does, it's very easy to get it off. And so that's how I let the scrapbook paper dry on the wood piece, and I can be sure that it's going to stay in place by having that acrylic block on there. So the next 2 products that I'm using, these are 8 and 9. These are the acrylic paints that I like to use. The 2 brands for me personally that I really like is Folk Art, which is product number 8, and Americana, product number 9. I find that these 2 are the paints that cover the best on the unfinished wood. And what I do is I put the gesso on, let it dry for 4 to 6 hours. I sand it, and then I come back with a coat of the acrylic paint, and then I will sand it, let it dry. And acrylic paint dries fairly fast, probably within 15, maybe less than that, 15 minutes or less. And then I put a second coat on, and then I'm ready to move forward with my product. So Folk Art and acrylic paint products 8 and 9. Product number 10 is the 3D crystal lacquer. I love, 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 love this. I've tried other lacquer products for putting on pendants and ornaments and whatnot, and this particular product is the one that I like. I think there's also one called Diamond Glaze. I've used that before and I like it, but there are a few others that I don't like. They don't dry evenly, or they take too long to dry, and I keep this safety pin down in there, otherwise it gets clogged up. I actually buy this in large quantities. This is an 18 ounce. I've bought it on Amazon and on Etsy, and you can also get little bitty tubes. If you're wanting to put kits together, you can add those little tubes into the kits. Here's an example of an ornament that I did. I don't have the hole drilled in it yet, but I had just a white piece of scrapbook cardstock, stamped an image on. I used the Tim Holtz distress ink, distress ink. And then I colored my stamped images in with my Copic markers, and then I glued that to my wood piece, and when it was dry, I put the crystal lacquer on. And you can see I used that folk art paint, and it has a nice even coverage on that. Very nice. I again love that 3D crystal lacquer. I have not varnished this piece yet, which I'm going to talk about next. Product number 11, Ceramcoat varnish. I would use this on the back of that piece where I didn't have the crystal lacquer, but when I completed this piece, I just haven't gotten to that point yet. You can also use the varnish to seal your wood. The problem with the varnish that I don't like is it's clear and it doesn't do a very good job of covering up these burnt edges. So I tend to stick with the gesso for the sealing of the wood, initial sealing, and then when the whole product is done, then I will put this varnish on. You can also buy varnish with glittery pieces in it, sparkly or whatever, so that adds a nice touch as well. Maybe I'll show that in another video. One thing I did want to say, for the varnish, I have my own brush that I use for varnish. I don't use it for painting or for the gesso. I basically consider it a dedicated brush for varnishing. So if you do varnish, you might want to have just nice, good, clean brush for that purpose. The next product that I use, and I don't use this a whole lot, but it's Mod Podge, and I like the matte finish. Like I said, I haven't tried a lot of the other products. I do own one that has the glitter in it, and I have put that on some ornaments. If I did not put the crystal lacquer on my wood, I would seal it with Mod Podge to make sure that cardstock stayed adhered to the piece of wood. And again, this is matte. I know that Mod Podge has come out with a lot of other products, and I probably should do some reviews on those and some projects just to give you some ideas of the different things you can do with that. And then the next product that I like to use on my wood is E6000 glue. I'll use this to adhere like paper clips to the back, or if it's like a pin or a tie clasp, or just something like that needs to be adhered to the wood. I will use E6000 for that. It holds very well. And that is product number 13 that I have there. And then the last product that I have to show, which I'm somewhat embarrassed to show, but I'll go ahead and show it anyway. You can see this is my glue gun, and I think I've had this thing for maybe 15 or 20 years, and even the stand as well. I love having the stand. I mean, it's great for if I've got it turned on and I need to step away, I'm always uncomfortable about leaving it turned on. You can see it's not in the best of shape, but it is a very, very, very good glue gun. I bought it at Michael's umpteen years ago, and I'm still using it to this day. I've had other glue guns, but I always come back to this one because I absolutely love it. So that's my 14 products or 14 of the products that I do use on My Little Woodshop. If you like what you saw, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Oop, thumbs up. There we go. And please subscribe to my channel too, because I'm going to continue doing videos using these products that I just showed you. Again, thank you so much for viewing my videos.